In the world of anime, we have literally thousands of choices when it comes to what we want to watch, and naturally, some choices are better than others. And when we discuss the legends, the GOATs, we cannot leave My Hero Academia off the table, and its final season tells us exactly why. Rise up, GG Nation, because it's time for Guidance Guide Friday, your digital guidance lesson from your internet school counselor. And today we look into how empathy was the secret weapon for taking down Shigaraki and the League of Villains once and for all. Let's go! It's guidance time! Listen, as much as I want to go into spoiler land into every single detail about how MHA ends, I'm gonna respect anybody who somehow hasn't finished this masterpiece yet. So there will be minor spoilers, but I won't be going to exactly how everything goes down. We good? Cool. We're talking about how empathy ended the final war. We gotta start before Deku went into battle with Shigaraki. I'm talking about Uraraka versus Toga, Shogi versus Spinner, and of course, the family battle royale that is Shoto versus Dabi. Let's start with Uraraka versus Toga though. These two have a history together where they've developed that strong anti-relationship that is the hero-villain dynamic. Uraraka wants to save, Himiko wants to destroy. Keep note of that. This trend is gonna show up later. And of course, they both have a soft spot for our green-haired protagonist. And there's one more element of their situation that gave Miss Anti-Gravity the advantage in their final showdown. They both wanted to understand each other. Himiko may be a freak. She's also a freak who wants to understand why her arch-nemesis is who she is. And it's the same way with Uraraka. She wants to know just how someone can become a villain who not only wants nothing more to burn everything down, but she's also willing to drink people's blood to do it like it's Gatorade. And even while they were fighting each other, Uraraka fought to understand her mortal enemy's point of view. And she eventually did, seeing her not just as a psycho killer. She saw her as a human being who was mistreated by those around her, not given the chance to live a normal life, and as a result was lashing out in pain. It doesn't excuse the pain that she caused. What it does is give an explanation. Although, if we're keeping it a buck, if there's anyone who had an excuse to crash out, it was Toya Todoroki. Oldest son of the number 2 hero Endeavor, he not only had to deal with the emotional damage of having the discount Fire Lord as a father, he was ultimately abandoned by the human blowtorch when Shoto was born. Brushed aside by his father and replaced by his baby brother, Dabi was on a mission to expose his family, and by extension the whole of hero culture, as a giant self-serving scam. Another bad guy wanting to destroy. There it is again. And with that kind of mindset, there's only one hero who could put the blue flame villain on ice. Remember back in season 1, Shoto hated his old man perhaps just as much as his big bro did. Even though Mr. Half and Half was anointed the new golden child, he was still subjected to a ton of trauma, to the point where he didn't even want to use the quirk that he inherited from his pops. Although before he could become Mr. Freeze but a good guy, who changed his mind again?
It's yours! Your quirk, not his!
And in the same way, Shoto reaches out to Dabi. He knows what it's like to have daddy issues, and he was also tempted to take out his rage on him, albeit in different ways. And just like how Shoto learned during the sports festival, he ultimately has the final say in how his life goes. You don't control what happens to you, you do control how you respond. Shoto responded by accepting Endeavor's power, making it his own, and even forgiving his father. Sadly, Dabi took the route of revenge and took out his pain on everyone else. And as painful as it was for Shoto to take out his own brother, he knew that it was the only way to show his bigger brother that you can have a hard past and still overcome. That having a bad day or rough life isn't an excuse to make everyone else's life miserable. It was in these now iconic fights that we see the heroes take the W with not just the strength of body, they do it with strength of mind, spirit, and heart. And of course, all of that is going to translate to the one character in this anime with the most innovative mind, the strongest spirit, and the biggest heart.
And I get that the only way to stop him might be to kill him, but
I want to save that little kid!
I don't need to spend much time talking about Deku, right? I mean, I've done 2 whole videos on this guy, and if you want a deep dive about him, just go check out those videos after you do the YouTube thing. And Detroit, smash the subscribe button and like this video. The 9th holder of One For All. The hero who's willing to literally destroy his own body in order to get the job done. How did he take on his opposite? How do you take on someone who has dedicated their life to the destruction of everything? I mean, yeah, you fight until only one of you is standing, and that's what any other hero would do in this situation. The thing is, Deku isn't like every other hero, because he's just not out to win and beat the bad guy. I mean, who do you think he is? Bakugo? Deku's goal is not just to save the day, but to save his opponent. Because if we're honest, if Deku used 100% of all of his powers, he could have ended the decaying villain real quick. And there were many who even told Deku that he should consider putting Shigaraki down, including the man's own grandma. What Deku does instead is try to find just what makes his final boss the way he is. And without going too much into spoiler territory, I'ma say this. Through superpower shenanigans, Deku gets to see Shigaraki's tragic transformation from a normal kid with a rough life into a stone-cold killer who murked his own family. And despite seeing his dark origin story, Deku only sees one goal: to save that little boy and show him another way. Remember, Shigaraki, like Dabi and Toga, had extremely rough childhoods filled with emotional and physical pain. And when that pain fully bloomed into hatred, that was the true birth of the symbol of fear. As much as Shigaraki talked about destroying everything as his ultimate goal, this is not what he truly wanted out of life. As a child, he wanted to be a hero, like his grandmother before him, and he even admits to Deku that his dream is still to be a hero. Granted, is to be a hero to the worst people imaginable. Bro wants to play hero to somebody though. And through Deku's trademark determination, perseverance, and creativity, Deku was able to break Shigaraki enough to go against everything his teacher, All For One, taught him. And of course, because it's Deku, his body gets completely wrecked. He's scarred up, is bedridden for a good long time, and oh yeah, at one point his arms get separated from his body. Despite all that, the crying hero would not have changed anything about his situation, because he knows he was able to save not just the world from being plunged into utter darkness, it's also because he was able to reach out to his worst enemy, understand him, and connect with him so well that it changed the direction of his life.
Dreams can become reality. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that this is the story of how I became the world's greatest hero.
Season 8 of My Hero Academia showed the way in how to reach out to others using empathy. And even in our quirkless world, we could use the same skills that we saw from UA's Class 1A. How exactly? Let's go back to the 2 points I mentioned earlier. Start with understanding the other person. And this doesn't have to be someone you don't like. It can be anyone that you just don't get. You don't vibe with them, and you just can't understand why they would make the choices that they make. Try your best to understand that other person. And the best way to do that is by talking with them. Even in MHA, between the punches and the blasts, characters who are ripping each other apart are having a real conversation through it all. They were asking legit questions. What led you to do that? Why did you do that? They asked these questions not to be judgmental or to say how bad they are. It was because they wanted to get their point of view. And you're not even doing it to agree with them. You can hear them out, understand their thought process, and still say, yeah, I'd never do that. And that's okay. Empathy isn't about persuading or agreeing with the other person. It's about understanding. And there's something about Deku's life that makes the difference between him and Shigaraki. The fact that Deku really could have been Shigaraki. Think about it. A quirkless kid mercilessly bullied his whole life for not having powers. It's so bad that not even his own mom believed in his dream to become a hero. How easy could it have been for Deku to go to the dark side after getting One for All and using his power to get revenge on Bakugo and everyone around him? Would have been easy, and I think Deku knew that. I believe Deku sees himself in Shigaraki, a version of himself that chose hatred and isolation when power was given to him. But instead of using his power to destroy, Deku used it to save. Told you we'd circle back to that. Deku not only saved people, he saved his relationship with his childhood friend, saved his classmates on multiple occasions, and ultimately saved his dream of becoming a great hero. And this is the last piece about empathy I want to leave you with. Use empathy to heal. Once you empathize with someone else and how they could have made the choices that they made, it's easier to understand them. And when you do that, you can help them see the other options that they have. And all it takes is a conversation. It's not easy, and it may not happen the first time. It's still worth the effort. Kendrick Lamar said in the GNX track Reincarnated that every individual is only a version of you. And Deku understands this quote more than any other fictional character. And it's because he understands that every villain could have easily been him if the roles were reversed. That fact is what makes him the greatest hero of all time. My Hero Academia is an anime that will go down in history as a defining moment in the culture. Like DBZ and One Piece before it, My Hero will continue to create fans for years to come and thus have the opportunity to share its message about the power of empathy and understanding for future generations. And if you need some more My Hero content to fill up that massive show hole in your life, I actually have a whole playlist going over many of the characters that make this anime so special. See you there! Guidance Guy out.